We're going to get going now, and we're going to start with, thank you so much for being here. And we're going to start with welcoming remarks by Marcia Gordon, the President and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester.
Thank you so much, Danny. This is a very special day today for the Green Business Partnership. We are going to have a few things that we're going to show for the first time, and how thrilling to have Steve here from IBM to talk about whether, Steve, just make it warmer for me, please. That's all. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like the cold. For those of you who are not familiar with the Green Business Partnership, this is a joint program of the Business Council of Westchester, Green Team Spirit in Westchester County, with the great support of Con Ed and others. And our goal is really to create Westchester as the most sustainable place to live, work, and play in the country. How's that for a new goal? Just made that up, but it fits in with everything that we've accomplished in the past 10 years, which has really started to brand Westchester County as a forward-thinking, an innovative, and a green place. And because we know that that's what economic development is about, we know that that attracts young people, it attracts great companies, and it attracts all of you. So it's my pleasure to welcome you here. I'm very interested in this program, and look forward to learning a lot today, Steve. So thank you all.
So we're now welcoming Peter McCart, Director of Energy Conservation and Sustainability for Westchester County.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I had a little speech. I had it on my phone, but it's not working. Technology, where's IBM? Steve, I need to get rid of this Android and get onto a Pixel here, right? Is that the phone I need? I don't know if you know that, but I'm from Ohio, and people in Ohio are into their weather. I've lived here on the East Coast for 40 years, and but I'm a big fan of weather.com. I was just telling Steve, as well as IBM. So these are two of my worlds colliding here. It's fantastic. Just give you all a little bit of an update of what what's been going on with my department. We have, back in December, we brought together a climate crisis task force. We are calling it a crisis now, and it is. And we have two of our chairs here, the Climate Crisis Task Force, Janet Harcum and Beth Sauerhoff, and Anjali Sodhoff. Anjali's here too, right? So out of that, we have 11 sectors and close to 200 people that are working on this. And anybody else, I know Danny and Scott are basically our business leaders. One of the great things that came out of the Climate Action Plan of 2008 was what these guys have done. It's really been one of the big successes from that. There's a lot going on here in the county. Sustainable Westchester does a good job with what they do. But anybody who wants to get involved further with that, you can either reach out to Janet, Beth, Anjali, or Beth, or Danny, or Scott, or myself, of course, or contact the county executive's office. But I'm excited to see this. This is going to be one of the best ones. I'm all up for it. No pressure, Steve. No pressure at all. I was about to take somebody else's notes. But thank you, guys. Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, thank you. So now I'd like to welcome Jane Solnick to say a few words. Jane is the Director of Public Affairs Westchester for Con Edison. They are a founding sponsor of our program, and we are delighted to have you.
Thank you, Danny. Good morning, everybody. We're now over 10 years that this has been a great partnership between the Business Council of Westchester and Westchester County. Con Edison has been a sponsor of this since the inception. For those of you who've been here before, you've heard me say that why does Con Edison sponsor this? We're very interested in our environment and our communities and making them sustainable. And this has been a great program. Everything we've seen that's progressed over the last 10 years have been wonderful. So we do have, I want to point out that we have some of our energy efficiency people who can speak to you about programs that we have ongoing that you should take advantage of. They're out at the table in the front. The programs do change year to year, so I encourage you to keep up with them. You may think, oh, I know what Con Edison is doing, but there are always programs coming out. I also want to take this opportunity. I know many of you have heard about the gas moratorium. We do have staff here today that are in the audience. If you can just raise your hand, guys. So if you have questions for any of us, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. And now I'd like to welcome Jean Maloney, Assistant Dean of Westchester Community College.
Good morning and thank you and welcome to Westchester Community College. I hope you may have had an opportunity as you were standing out in the atrium to say hello to our president, Dr. Miles, and some of our leadership team. They're across the hall meeting with legislators talking about opportunities here at the college. So on their behalf, I welcome you to the college and to the Gateway Center, which we believe is a very fitting venue for discussions around the environment, sustainability, and the greening of Westchester County. So we hope that we know that it's going to be a terrific presentation. And if you want to today on this sleepy Friday here at the college, particularly so because it's the Friday before spring break, maybe you remember the Friday before spring break, right? So if you need to set the tone for your weekend and your day in a brisk walk, please enjoy our green spaces and the peace and tranquility of our campus. Have a great meeting today.
So we want to thank our, what are we doing? Yeah, but we want to thank all of our sponsors, our silver, gold, platinum, bronze, Pell Wealth silver sponsor. Tony is here, always an amazing advocate for the program and an ambassador of the program. Regeneron, a gold sponsor. Are we going to do the, excuse me. Let's cue the video. Okay. Okay, do you have to cue it? Okay, all right, so we have a surprise today, something different that we're so excited about. This is our movie premiere, but we have the wonderful people from Berlin Productions who helped to produce what we call an explainer video. Why don't you just give a wave right now?
Connie and Steven.
Connie Gallows, Steve Clappo. So, okay, and off we go. I'm so excited.
You spend plenty of time cultivating your business.
Sorry. I think it's doing the same thing it did before.
Yeah.
We need IBM to help us with the...
It's his computer, not mine. I'm not a Mac user, sorry. Yeah.
We need to explain the explainer video.
Back to that default. That's what I'm saying.
You need the right person at IBM, and Steve is.
All right, all right.
Start from the beginning.
Okay. Let's go from the beginning.
Time cultivating your business. But suppose you could do something to grow your business even more while saving money and becoming more efficient, increasing employee engagement and satisfaction, building stronger relationships with clients, and reducing your impact on the environment. Achieve all of these things with Green Business Certification from the Green Business Partnership. Sustainability made simple. Sustainability makes sense for businesses of all sizes. Studies show that companies with the highest environmental performance also have higher revenues. You see, most of your customers would rather do business with companies that have a reputation for sustainability. So how can my company get in on this, you're wondering? After signing up at greenbusinesspartnership.org, you'll assemble your own green team. Next, you'll use our app to keep track of the changes your company makes in 7 key areas. And don't worry, you can go at your own speed. Our proprietary online dashboard makes it easy to measure your company's greenhouse gas emissions, identify opportunities for improvement, and save money. Have questions? The Green Business Partnerships team of professionals is a click or call away. Once you're certified, the Green Business Partnership Seal tells the world, and especially your customers and employees, about your commitment to sustainability. Save money, grow your business, and gain visibility. Contact the Green Business Partnership today.
So we managed to condense, what normally takes us 20 minutes to explain into 1 minute and 27 seconds. So enjoy. That's very helpful.
Is that a compliment?
Yeah, so we have to really thank, the incredible talent at Berlin Productions for pulling this off. Highly recommend them if anybody wants to do anything like it. Yeah, no.
Okay, so take it away.
So very quickly, just going to go say a couple of words about our program. We're now up to 125 members. We have 40 members that are certified. This is, are you clicking? Okay. And thanks to Ethan Kravitz, who's our director of membership, who's like really calling our members every day and helping them continually to move forward and get certified. We've seen a big, big movement in that direction. So that we have a couple of slides of members that are certified. River Architects is the most recent one, and we have James here today, Hartford from River Architects. Can't wait to celebrate theirs. And really an incredible list of 40 members that are certified. Very quickly, how does it work? You learned that on the video, I imagine, but you can just go and join the program, you become a member, you pay online, you get your dashboard, it takes you through the entire process, you learn about your green, you go through a green action list of 200 actions, 90 are required, you go and you measure your greenhouse gas emissions, you measure them over time. We have some wonderful members, Hendrik Hudson here today, for example, who has 5 years, so does Greenberg Nature Center, 5 years of data. So they are looking in their summary chart at their trends, at their scopes 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and all of that for 5 years and making improvements to their businesses based on that data. Okay, and so this is really what we're here for. I'm going to read Steve's whole bio because it's worth it. So Steve Wysmuller is the global weather leader for IBM, the weather company, a respected leader in weather and climate resiliency for nearly 20 years. Steve Wysmuller currently serves as IBM's global lead meteorologist for government, aviation, travel, and transportation clients. He joined IBM in 2005 as a member of IBM's Corporate Environmental Affairs Department. He has held several roles, including IBM's Smarter Cities sales leader, Global Business Services team leader, and as a member of the Cognitive Solutions team responsible for sustainability and energy management. Most recently, Steve has been working closely with the Department of Energy's Idaho National Laboratory on a project to create a weather and traffic visualization platform. This project is helping INL increase the reliability, the resolution, and the communication of road and weather conditions along popular routes. Success at the INL means safer roads anywhere there is potential for hazardous weather, and I think many of us are familiar with that in our local community. Steve is very active in his local community, which is ours, and has held numerous board of director seats, including board president. As evidence of his passion for local service, in 2016, he received the President's Lifetime Achievement Award from President Barack Obama for 4,000 hours of volunteer service. Steve received his MS in Environmental Engineering degree from the University of Colorado at Boulder and his dual BS in Meteorology and Environmental Science from North Carolina State University. So welcome, Steve. Come on up.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here. All right, so your first question is, what's the weather, right? And I promised I'm not going to stand by the podium, so I get this special little mic here, so I can actually move around like a weatherman should. I never thought, 20 years ago I got my meteorology degree, and I wasn't sure exactly where that would take me. Joined IBM just about 15 years ago, and hired into, as you heard, corporate environmental affairs, help IBM manage its air, water, waste, energy, product recycling, a number of different initiatives. Did that for about 5 years, and then you may have seen Smarter Planet and some of our Smarter Cities projects. We've done a lot of philanthropic work around the world. We had the Smarter Cities Challenge, and that was my first taste of what it meant to really help a city, help a community understand traffic and weather and all the things that we as citizens encounter every day. So I did that up in Boston in 2012. They asked me to then join the Smarter Cities sales team. They thought I could sell Smarter Cities, and from there, just about 3 years ago, we acquired the weather company. So what I'm going to take you through today is that journey from about 3 years ago, actually applying my meteorological background, my civil and environmental engineering, combining it all into helping create solutions that really save lives. I travel around the world. I'm our global government lead. So I work with state, local, federal, defense, intelligence, you name it. Anything that's paid by taxpayer dollars or governments, the UN, the large oceanic states, helping climate change, all of this. I won't go into all these details today, but we're tackling some of those big challenges at IBM. And we're right in your backyard here, our corporate headquarters in Armonk. So let me just jump in. I've got a short video. I promise not too many PowerPoint slides. I actually want to show you some live demonstrations of projects that we're doing. I'm combining AI, artificial intelligence, or augmented intelligence. I'll explain that in a little bit. Machine learning algorithms, lots of cool things that you hear about in the paper. Let me jump out of this, and I'm going to, hopefully, we tested this 3 times. And as you, let's see if this actually works. I think it will. Make it full screen, and let's get that started.
It started as an idea.
And good evening, America. Welcome to the Weather Channel, the non-ending weather telethon.
Deliver the most accurate forecast when you need it most.
Our goal tonight, keep you safe.
First we were here.
Today, the top winds are up to 105 miles an hour.
Then here. And here. Today, we're powering the world around us in ways you can see and ways you can only feel. And now, we're about to transform our business again.
Hello, my name is Watson, and I'm here to help.
The biggest thing in weather just became the next big thing in cognitive computing.
The weather is the most pervasive source of data there is. It's why the IBM company acquired the weather company. Wearables, sensors, cars, data everywhere. 9 billion connected devices, 2.5 quadrillion bytes of data a day. The challenge is understanding it.
We're providing insight for the everyday and the extraordinary.
Now we're going to combine weather with all your operational data, telematics, sensors, and you can start to see what you could do for insurance risks, for retail demand, for auto safety.
Yet in the midst of unprecedented change, our mission remains the same: to deliver information to people at the moments that matter most. We'll just be doing it in ways no one ever imagined.
So I believe it'll change not only what you make, it'll change how you operate, and in fact, it'll actually change who you are. I believe every decision mankind makes is going to be better because of these technologies.
Hope you enjoyed that. It's one of my favorite videos. I've got lots of different videos I could show you. Our marketing team does a great job, but it's real. We're pulling Watson in. We're using it with weather data and the power of IBM to really make a difference. So let me jump in. I promise I won't spend a lot of time here on slides. But we are transforming businesses. It doesn't matter who you are. We work across every possible industry out there. If you think about the way weather impacts your business, If you think about our community here, and if you remember November 15th, that date will ever remain in my memory. 6 or 7 hour commutes because somebody didn't get the forecast right, and didn't plow. Lots of challenges, right? So folks are always asking, "Hey, what's the weather?" And so I say go to the weather.com website or your app, and it is the #1 most accurate weather forecast in the world. So I'm going to cover through that right now. Business decisions are powered by weather. We're the largest provider of atmospheric and weather data globally. Only Google Maps reaches more folks from a overall location-based service. We bring in lots of third-party data, about 800 different sources. Every business, as I mentioned, aviation, I work with a number of different airlines. We embed meteorologists in operation centers so that you have a better flight. We have a new turbulence product coming out. We can actually predict and notify pilots before the turbulence comes, so you can go do what you need to do. Media and entertainment, insurance, financial services, government, of course, everywhere around the world, oil and gas industries, utilities, agriculture, and retail. So with that, we pull, what's the secret sauce? Why did IBM acquire the weather company? Was it they wanted to have the best weather forecast? No, we want to make the best decisions, right? We're a decision business. We want to help our clients make the best possible choice given all the complexities of the world. So we pull billions of data sources with the world's leading cognitive technology. And hopefully everyone's familiar with Watson. It played Jeopardy in 2012. It doesn't just play Jeopardy, it does a whole lot more. And so what we've done is embraced all this complexity of big data, weather data, billions of data sources. We get, on average, somewhere between, and it ranges depending on the severity of weather every day, but around the world about 50 billion API calls. This is every time you click on your computer or on your phone and ask what's the weather, that hits our servers. That's about, give you a sense of scale, Google search gets about 5 billion APIs, so we're about 10 times larger than Google search. That's how many more times folks are checking the weather, because we all know you need to know in the morning what to wear and what your day is going to be like, or what the weekend's going to be like, or I'm planning a vacation and I want to know the weather in a couple weeks. We've mapped that across the globe, so it's not just here or there. 2.2 billion locations around the globe, and it's mapped and refreshed every 15 minutes. It takes our supercomputers about 5 or 6 minutes to run that forecast for those 2.2 billion locations, and a ton of data that gets processed every day. So it's not just about the data, but where we're getting the data from. Hundreds of different sensors. We rely on the National Weather Service. Governments are critical to our forecast, but so are a number of other sensors, the Internet of Things, collecting data from 50,000 flights a day. So we're mapping the atmosphere. It's a really cool chart when you look at 50,000 flights and where they've gone around the world, and millions of devices contributing pressure and location data. So let me just emphasize what this does. Native in your iPhone and Samsung is a pressure sensor. When you check the weather, most folks opt in to provide their location, and with that, we get your pressure reading from your phone. That's all we get. We don't get anything else. All that gets anonymized. We don't care who you are, what you do, but that pressure sensor from 100 million phones gives us a tremendous power to give you the most accurate forecast. It can also help us in a 911 situation. That pressure difference tells us whether you're on the 2nd floor or the 37th floor of a building. That's the power of having pressure data. So in a 911 situation, we're at a phase now where we're testing response, not just where you are geospatially, but also height-wise where you might be in the building. Second, I've already covered that, scaling, real-time forecast. We power the world's weather. Google, Instagram, Google, Air, I connect to them way too much. Samsung, Yahoo, Weather Underground, if anybody has a backyard weather station, I do. It's fun. It's very cool. We got about 300,000 of these sensors around the world. So I talked about accuracy earlier. The number one most accurate forecaster in the world, so a third party called Forecast Watch, annually looks at all the providers out there. The difference isn't that much, but we can say we're number one. The reason why we're pulling all these different data sources, so 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 6 to 9 days, doesn't really matter. US, Europe, and Asia Pacific. We blend lots of weather data. I'm not going to go into all the precision calculations, but happy to talk afterwards if folks have questions about how we actually blend the data. And the IoT challenges. So this is the Internet of Things, lots of sensors out there. We want to ingest the data, pull all that sensor into a common platform, do a real-time analysis of the data. So what do we actually have? And then take some action. So to make great decisions, you have to quantify uncertainty. And this gets quite challenging. The way weather models have been run for the past 30 years use deterministic models, basically some statistics to understand what's the mean, what's the average, what do we think is going to happen. So over here you'll see this is a 34-degree forecast currently. They take all the possibilities of what they think and they're going to come up with 34. Where we're shifting is into probabilistic forecasts. Probabilistic means there's even odds of it either being 31.5 degrees, and if it's 31.5, you're going to have ice and freezing rain and conditions like November 15th, or it could be 35.5 degrees, just a rain event. But they're evenly distributed. But again, the forecast says 34, so what do you rely on, right? But you have to make that decision. So what's the probabilistic forecast for crops? I need to protect my crop. I've got an apple orchard in, let's say, northern Westchester. What do I have to do to protect it from frost this spring? The flowers have just bloomed. You know, my apple orchard relies on that as my annual income. So the forecast low is 34 degrees. I need to make a decision by 4 p.m. Do I turn some sprinklers on? Do I turn some heaters on? What am I doing to protect my crop? And there's some sort of critical knowledge gap of sub-freezing temperatures. The same thing about energy. Thank you, Con Ed, for being here today and doing all you're doing in our community. Generating enough capacity, right? Big challenges, winter, spring, summer, fall. Demand changes, especially in the summertime. When the forecast is 94 degrees, the utility can handle up to about 97 degrees, and so there's, spot market prices and lots of complexity, and how do I buy that energy at the best possible price? So, if we exceed 97, are we going to have some brownouts, blackouts? What's going to happen? Can I meet that demand on a particular hot summer afternoon? This is one of my favorites. So, municipalities. Huge challenge. I feel for everyone out there who has, even school districts, right? Poor New York City closed schools last Monday. They got, and their experts predicted 6 to 10 inches. That didn't quite materialize as they had hoped. I think they really wanted a snow day. Our predictions at LaGuardia using the weather company was like 2.5 inches. So don't really know what happened there. Some challenges, but when you're looking at activating plows for certain districts, you have to make a decision. First, what's the snowfall forecast? What's the rate of snowfall? What roads, what bridges, etc. need to be handled, and you need to make that decision at a certain time. It says noon here, but usually it's midnight. And what are the odds of exceeding that? So we take all this data, we blend it in, and we give our clients, the best possible forecast with all the data that's available out there to make decisions. If you go to the Westchester or to any mall out there, the retail question of how many staff do I need to have, or what product should I place in the front of my store? I'm happy to report, Marcia, that the weather is improving. Tomorrow will be a beautiful day in the mid-40s. Yep, 46, 47 degrees I anticipate. Rain does come in Saturday night into Sunday, but that means we're getting warmer weather next week. So take the rain Sunday, because we need it to wash our roads, get all that salt, and then next week, mid-40s, 50, hopefully on Monday. So anyway, fingers crossed that we get this forecast right, and we'll start to see sunny, warm conditions in early spring can triple store traffic. So great for the economy, great for tax revenue, and a whole bunch of other things. The retailers love it, but they have to staff accordingly. And they need to make sure they have the right product placement. So you'll start to see shifts, like Starbucks will shift the cups that they have from hot cups to cold cups, or vice versa, depending on what that temperature forecast is. And we can bring that forecast to you 2 weeks in advance. So what we do is run a forecast hourly for the next 15 days. So we can give you that forecast by hour. For the next 7 hours, I can give it to you every 15 minutes. So if you need real crunch time, like you're the port authority and you've got lots of ships coming in and you need to know exactly how many ships you can bring in the next 3 to 6 hours, because that's approximately the time it takes to get a ship into the port, we can give that every 15 minutes. So lots of cool things. So I always ask this question, so how can we help you improve your level of confidence? It's not just weather, but all the factors out there that really make a difference to your business. So hopefully that gives you an overview of who we are. A couple other little details. These are my fun slides. At IBM Research in Yorktown, that's here in Westchester, they developed Deep Thunder in 1996 for the Summer Olympics. We're still using that model. It's one of 178 different models that we run every day, and Watson blends all that technology. But Deep Thunder does high-resolution weather prediction, real tight, granular, like we can go down to like the street level to give you really high resolution. We've got an operations dashboard, both on the web, so you can have it on your laptop, in a command center, or on your mobile phone or iPad or any device. So it gives you location, weather, traffic, alerts, lots of really useful information. So just another cool thing. And then we do some intelligent video analytics. So this started back, I mentioned the Boston project. We were taking traffic cameras and we were able to count cars at intersections to understand time of day and patterns. We found 6 unique patterns around the city of Boston using intelligent video analytics. You can count people at subway stations, is there overcrowding, at the metro station, at, downtown intersections, you have a large parade, lots of different, both, from a situational awareness, operational optimization, and some, searches. God forbid, you have to do something after an event occurs. So lots of useful ways that you can use video cameras. And this is really busy, and I'm not going to cover it. Just read the top left. One architecture. We do all this stuff to help you, right? So it's apps and AI and data and cloud. So that's what I wanted to end with. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to go into a live demo now. But any questions? Maybe I'll do that at the end. Perfect. I love it. And how much time do I have? Okay. This is my favorite. So I promised myself this year I would do less PowerPoint slides and more live, like actually what's going on. The Idaho National Lab is a favorite client of ours. We've been working with them for about 2.5 years. They came to us because they were waking up every morning at 2 a.m. to drive 300 miles of road to tell their 66 buses and their bus drivers what the road conditions were. They have to move 4,000 nuclear scientists out to 3 active nuclear reactors every morning. They work 12-hour shifts. And when I say nuclear scientists, they take their lunch boxes and they line them up every morning when they get to the park and ride. And that's the order that they board the bus in. I kid you not. So it's really cool to be working with them. Yeah. It's reassuring you've got the best. I mean, they are. And if the bus is late by 1 minute, we're in big trouble. So, we're back to this. I may have to. Let me see. We had this problem. I promise we tested this. I want you to be able to see it. It was the display. Back to scaled. Here we go. All right. This will be better. I want you to be able to actually see what this is. All right, there it is. All right, so back to Idaho National Lab. It's a very large site. I'll show you a map in a minute. But this is their dashboard that we built them. It just went back to. These Macs really don't like to play around. So I switched from a PC to a Mac a few years ago because, like in IBM, it was like the cool thing. Like you could no longer. I was like confined to a PC forever, and it was fine. But all right, let me try one more time. Let's hope it stays. I'm not promise. Okay, so real quick before it disappears, we got the weather. They needed to know black ice, snow drifts, traffic, wind, rain, and snow. We built alerts. They gave us 68 points of interest that they were interested in. So you can go, where's the puzzle? The puzzle is their favorite. This is an intersection where all the buses come together and then go into the site. There's folks hiding in the woods, not woods, but like out in the desert plain here in like snowsuits. You don't want to mess around out here. So this is the puzzle. The traffic, it's increasing. It's morning now, so it's about 7 a.m. Let me show you a map of Idaho National Lab. Anybody ever been out to Idaho Falls or Idaho? It's a high desert plain. The wind is always blowing. They have 3 different microclimates because they're surrounded by mountains everywhere except to the south. So I'm going to zoom out so you can actually see what this looks like. Beautiful area. You've got some wilderness areas. Hell's Half-Acre Wilderness Study Area. Yeah, this is Craters of the Moon. It's a national. So let me show you mile markers. So we basically mapped out every mile of roadway for them. And then to that, we can add in snow drifts. Right now there's none, but these change color, so from green to yellow to orange to red, depending on the severity of black ice. Snow drifts, you can do a view like Google Maps. It's just color to the roadway. So, great question, and I'm glad you shouted. That's perfect. I love that. RWIS stations, roadside weather information systems. These are on the side. Every 5 miles, there's a roadside weather information system, RWIS. They collect all the weather data, but there's a big gap every 5 miles. So it wasn't capturing black ice. It wasn't capturing snow drifts. So we run our own model to fill in the gaps, and we're adding some additional MET stations, meteorological stations, in areas of high interest. So, and I'll get to that in a minute, but so you can run a forecast out here. You can look at precipitation, where it is, and you can go anywhere in the world with that. So it's current conditions. You can run it out for 6 hours. You can add, and so all these green roads, these are the roads that they drive every morning. So everything from the south, Pocatello, it's about 40 miles from Pocatello to Idaho Falls. So you can get a sense of scale. Out to Arco, takes about an hour drive on the bus. A lot of fun. The real power, though, okay, so that was a cool view, nice, is the indexes that we created. So we've created driving difficulty forecasts for the bus drivers. And about 2 weeks ago, I got a call from the director of the organization that we support out there. And I wasn't sure why he was calling at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, "Hey, Scott, how's it going?" He was like, "Steve, you've got me really, really concerned." I said, "What's wrong?" Like, I thought the thing was broken. He was like, "I just drove this morning all the roads with one of the drivers, and your predictions were spot on for each mile. Like, we saw the change as we went over this hill. It went from dry pavement to not dry to ice to, and so that validation, I can now safely say it's actually working. So when we say there's, hold on one second. I'm back. Okay, so driving difficulty. So I can get into all this. So you could pick any point, any road. You can pick the junction. You know, they all change. And then you can get 30-day historical, and you can start to learn. We're using some machine learning. We're retraining the model. So this isn't static, it's dynamic in that every time we have a snow event, it learns, was the prediction right, was it not right, and it gets better over time. So the last piece of this, we pull in cameras. I mentioned that IVA, that Intelligent Video Analytics. We took 2,400 images of roads covered in snow, in rain, and dry pavement, and trained the cameras to detect if the roads have some snow coverage. So back to the RWIS stations and the cameras that are up there, we can pull that in. We're currently taking like a pilot type project to ingest the data from the buses themselves. If they have video, being able to monitor the video feeds, but there's some challenges there as far as bandwidth. Some of the, it's mostly cellular technology, so getting that data back can be a challenge. So there's certainly challenges when you're working in a high desert environment, but it's a beautiful place and a great client to really work with. So. Yes, those are embedded as part of the RWIS stations. Yes, every 5 miles. All right, let me see what's going on here. It wants to go on its own. Let me take you to one more project, if it's okay. I'm going to jump across the ocean to Munich. This is the city of Munich. It's mid-afternoon, so not a lot of traffic yet. It's Friday afternoon. But we, at the Watson IoT Lab, we have a building in Munich, Germany, where we have dedicated an entire floor to government programs and initiatives that we're doing. They asked us to build something very similar to Idaho National Lab to look at road risk. So could you look around the city and identify of 1,000 different road segments, risk associated with accidents? We worked with the city police, and they provided us with 3 years' worth of historic collision data. So that's the historic piece. We take real-time weather and traffic data, and then we do a prediction 1 hour from now of the road risk of where accidents might occur. So at the top here, you'll see the hourly road risk prediction. There's 50 segments that have some risk of 1,000. None of them have the severe category, which is good. Sometimes you get 1 or 2. Which means like it's imminent, there's going to be something happening there. So you might as well call the ambulance because, and yep, 1 second. Let me just finish the page here and then I'll get to your question. Number of events, so we pull in publicly available data as much as possible. We're big into open source and all that information crowdsourcing. So there's 23 events, we're up about 5% from yesterday. And there's 1 weather event. We do pull in publicly available, from the German Meteorological Organization, potential disruption due to wind, and then we do some comparisons here, but I'll show you what that looks like on the map in a minute. You had a question?
So you sell this service to the city of Munich and Idaho National. This isn't available for absolutely anyone, right?
This was for a client that, yep, exactly. Yep. So Weather Underground is part of the Weather Company, and Weather Company is an IBM business. So we're all fully integrated into IBM. All the same weather data from Weather Underground. Weather Underground actually feeds, as I showed earlier, Weather Underground is the personal weather stations, the backyard stations. We have 300,000 globally. That's just one part of the 800 different sources that ultimately blends into weather.com. So your Weather Channel app, your weather.com website is blending all that to give you the most accurate forecast. And so what we're using here is a weather API. We have historic data that we can pull in, historic weather data. We have archives of data. We have a current on-demand forecast. That's that 15-minute interval for the next 7 hours or 1 hour interval for 15 days. We have a seasonal product as well. We can do seasonal forecasts out to 7 months. Let me just, I don't want to sell you on the weather, but I'm trying to focus on like the challenges. So for INL, let me just jump back. I probably should give you a number. When they have to shut the site down and those nuclear scientists don't get to go to work or they have to stay where they're working extra hours, it costs them about $1 million per day. So our platform is a whole lot less than that. And so the power of having a platform to have better predictions of help them as a business, as a government, federal government lab, it saves them money. So we're able to justify it that way. When I can help municipalities, activate or not activate plows, retailers, we had a weather hackathon over in the UK in London. We think we can save a large retailer over there lots of money just from understanding how the forecast is. So we've got a map of Munich here. Let me just show you what historic collisions look like around Munich. You're going to be scared to go if you let's so as you would guess, around the city, there's these are all 1,000 segments. You can click on any one of these. It's going to give you all the collision details. So we've picked this road segment, Nymphenburger Straße. It's 1.24 kilometers. So over 3 years, there's 270 different collisions, 54 mild injuries, 4 severe, and 2 fatalities on that one road segment. The time of day when things occur, the lighting conditions, the collision type, and the accident type. So all these details, this is data science at its best. It took us about 3 weeks to build this platform. That's the other thing I should tell you about how long it takes. INL was one of our first that we built about 6 weeks to build that platform. Getting the client's data, the bus data, all that cleansed and working for us took about 6 weeks. Each time we do these, they get a little faster. So this was about 3.5 weeks. So the data science is fun. It took 3 data scientists to work through all this. We connect INREX. It's a third-party traffic provider. They do a great job. A lot of the local news stations, when you get the traffic, it's powered by INREX. You might see at the bottom of the screen. It's a bit of a mess right now. So there's quite a bit of slowdowns or speed ups. So this is just risk-based, current speed. We can do an INREX speed compared to average. So again, taking that historic traffic data, understanding what's the average speed along this route. Are we above or below? You can click on any one of these and then start to get details to understand the average INREX speed is 27, but currently it's 20. So a bit of a slowdown. Everyone's leaving the office early today in Munich to go skiing. And then hourly, this is my favorite part. So it's great to have historic and current data, but now give me insights into what's going to happen an hour from now. So 1 hour, there's a forecasted accident probability. And the map actually looks a lot better than that other one, right? So not as many greens and reds and yellows, but there's more green here, more yellow. But those, watch out for the oranges and reds, because that's where you can start. You can go in here and say there's an emergency room. You can go in here and you can notify, say this one's probably a good choice, right? So, hey, emergency room, you've got a high probability of an accident occurring in the next hour. Maybe deploy an ambulance, maybe have the right staff. So this is the future of combining and using machine learning to take historic current to do forecasts of probability of something happening. Just like that forecast I showed, like the crops and the snow plows, like probabilistic forecasts are going to change the way you see weather and whole lot of other business decisions. What else can I tell you about? We added a bunch of points of interest. We pulled in all that, so shopping, bars, stadiums, you know, if there's a stadium getting out, events. We just added air pollution, so there's a lot of initiatives over in the EU for air pollution and funding to reduce and monitor current levels, so you can add that in. And then last but not least, you can add weather and all that good stuff. So same thing with the cameras. We did camera training. You know, are the roads congested, not so congested? Are they medium, are they low? So pretty cool things, a lot of fun to build. Only takes a few weeks, easy to start. We do workshops like design thinking. Folks do design thinking. Hackathons, my favorite. Yeah. Absolutely. Love design. We've got great facilitators. We've got lots of Post-it notes. And we basically prioritize what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck, right? So you've got lots of problems, but what's your biggest problem? What's the easiest to implement? What's something you can do tomorrow? What's something you're going to need to do over, say, several years? So lots of different fun things as a business that you can start to think about, and hopefully improve your overall bottom line, reduce costs, save lives. So at the end of the day, when my kids ask, you know, what did you do, Dad? You know, I say, maybe I saved a life, right? So, or did something to help the site. So anyway, I'll stop there and maybe just open up for some questions. Great.
I actually want to ask a question. Huh? Can I use this one?
It's losing power.
Okay. So Steve, we have a lot of small to medium-sized companies in our program and in the audience who maybe haven't ever really thought about weather data in terms of using it for their business. I'm just curious, like, where do you think a company should start besides just checking the forecast in the morning to decide whether they should, you know, put out spring dresses versus, you know, winter pants or whatever? I mean, where's a good place to start for a company that's never really thought about these kinds of things before?
That's a great question. I think it's just starting to look at, you know, looking at your data. I think it all starts with, if you've been tracking your data and you've seen ebbs and flows, right, and being able to make that connection. I think it's it's not that complicated to say, hey, we had a really warm spring last year, and our business did better. Or we should have gotten our product out sooner, like a week or two earlier. We should have, you know, placed that order so that we can anticipate. So getting ahead, being proactive versus reactive is what I really start with most of our clients with, is let's get ahead of the problem or the challenge, or let's really address what drives your business and how weather plays a role. Because I think we can all see that there's a role that weather plays, but it's understanding how that connects back to your data. Yes, thanks. Absolutely, yeah. The autonomous vehicles are coming, so getting them on roadways and safely navigating through, you know, our traffic will be something of the future. We're starting to see elements of that. And then to the energy aspect, you know, energy and utilities, absolutely. Understanding those peak areas, times of the day, and the impacts that renewables play are critical, and being able to store that. The storage of energy, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. How long do I hold on to this? When do I, spin up another turbine or, reduce load here, transmission lines. So we have, and I'm not the energy and utility expert, but my colleague is based in New Jersey, we've worked with a number of utilities around the world, and the weather company has a number of assets like outage prediction, which plays critical when there's ice storms and hurricanes, and we're heavily involved in a lot of that. So, great question. Thank you.
So I have a quick question over here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Missed you.
For this general businesses, like mid-sized businesses, what app would we use to not only predict the weather or the traffic? Is there one that's out there for the public to use?
Yes. So, and I could plug it in, or I could just talk to it. It's the Weather Channel. So, if you have the Weather Channel with Watson, we're the Watson part, and we brought in the Weather Channel. So, it's a lot of fun. So, Weather Channel is the go-to, weather.com.
Yeah, so it's the one right on your iPhone.
It should be native. The iPhone, Apple weather data is pulling weather company in, so lots of different ways to get it.
Air quality.
I'm going to give you a couple other secret ones. No, they're not really secret. They're just probably not as used as frequently. So there's another one called Storm Radar. And Storm Radar, so let me see what it actually says on it. Storm Radar by the Weather Channel. So this gives you lots of different, if you want to get really geeky into all the weather stuff, you can get radar, wind, temperature, and then there's all these custom layers you can add in. So you can add in, let's say, storm tracks, lightning, temperature changes, hurricanes, earthquakes, road weather, and again, this is global, so you can look anywhere in the world and see what's going on. You can get alerts, and that's the coolest thing. I don't know, anybody have the Weather Channel app right now, Weather Company app? Okay. Yeah. Very good. Anybody have it turned on so you get alerts, like you're going to have snow at 11:13 a.m.? Okay. It's actually been pretty good. Recent, okay, I've got a few nods. Yesterday I'm having lunch, it's like, you're going to, snow detected and I have a radius of 10 miles. It was like, precipitation snow detected. You're going to have a snow, a short burst of snow, and sure enough, came in, and I'm looking, I'm like, okay, I guess it's really work. It does work. So, because even I sometimes I can't believe it, but so those are two good apps. So Storm Radar and the Weather Channel, Weather Company app. So, and then the Ops dashboard. That's something we do with a lot of trucking companies and municipalities, and those are software products and solutions that we can build and customize for you. So as IBM's a public, we need to generate some revenue. We sort of balance what we can give to you for free via weather data and such, and then we can get that really high resolution depending on your business needs. And we're happy to have that discussion. So.
I think we had a question
Another
over
question.
here, right?
So a couple, and then Amir, I'll get to you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Question about a sudden weather crisis like the tornadoes down in Alabama. I imagine IBM Weather Company is the best predictor of such a sudden crisis. Could you just describe all of the ways in which the communication, IBM Weather Company will get the communication to the people, or can get it to the people? Do you have to go through the municipality contracting for you to communicate, or what?
So we still, and I hopefully covered this, still rely on the National Weather Service for all the alerts. So that piece still needs to come through from the government. what we can do is show you a forecast or predicted, like on the storm radar, the cone of where we project the storm to go, where the tornado watch is. If you ever watch the Weather Channel, you'll see, and sorry, I'm running this World Community Grid so we can conquer cancer and Zika and all that, but disregard that. So it starts with the actual alert from National Weather Service, which is embedded. You'll get that alert on the app. So it'll say storm watch, storm warning, etc., tornado watch, tornado warning. If it's imminent to your area, you can get alerted to it, but it starts with the government data, and then we do our calculations, our crunching of where we project it to go. Does that help you understand this balance of right? We've got, I don't know, 3,000 meteorologists who work for the government. We want to make sure they stay employed and add value to our communities, and we rely on that data because they do an excellent job. What we're doing is enhancing that forecast, blending it with lots of other data sources. So, another question.
We have one over here, and then I'm going to bring it to the other side.
Okay, and in the middle. Yes. Okay, we'll work our way.
Do you use, you mentioned air quality models, do you use real-time traffic data and meteorological data to develop predictive air quality models at a small scale?
Yes. So we have, that was one of the questions that the city of Boston had was, they had just signed up for a greenhouse gas reduction goal 2020, which they're nearing on now, but that was 7 years ago. And so working with Boston University, they were monitoring air quality. They had, I think at the time, like 6 sensors that they had installed around the city to understand the impact of pollution and idling of cars and cars looking for parking. So we started to collaborate on and understand some of those challenges that they have. So when a citizen leaves their house in the morning and needs to drive into the city, they end up looking for parking, and so they're circling around 2-3 times a block. So working with the university there, they came up with a smarter parking app. So I think 2012, this is like new, never been done before, to help the citizens make a choice. Do I want to pay maybe a little bit more to park in a parking garage with an assigned spot? And you're starting to see these pop up more and more frequently. By doing so, I'm reducing my overall emissions because I'm going from point A to point B more efficiently. The other part of that was actually making the journey map and trying to optimize the speed of the vehicles from A to B. So University of Texas did a study, and they said, the best speed is through cities, et cetera, is 35 miles per hour. So if you can get your cars to flow, imagine Boston, everybody going 35 miles an hour. Not going to happen, right? It's still, I was just there like a week ago. Still a mess. But the goal was to try to optimize, and you're going to start to see more congestion-based pricing schemes and other ways to take millions of cars and distribute them during the rush hour peak. So instead of everybody getting onto 684 at 7:30 in the morning, and I don't know if anybody was on 684 yesterday, but it was a mess, especially southbound. You would just sit there, and so you're just contributing to overall, right, pollution and emissions. So having this knowledge and then helping understand when's the best time. So maybe my employer gives me some flexibility. If I get in at 7, I leave my house at 6:30. And I can leave by 4. I could spend some time with my kids, or I'm a night owl. I like to stay up late. Can I come in at 10? Even better, and work till 7. So lots of different choices we can think about as businesses in the community, and that congestion-based tolling and pricing, and ways that governments can work with the citizens to address urban air quality issues. So great question. Thank you. Yes.
You talked quite a bit about the data you use being helpful for individual companies and businesses for traffic reasons, for demand, for weather. How valuable do you see this data in
It's huge, right? So we know there's always been climate change, the severity of which we're just now getting our, I think, arms around as far as, predictive models. So I think later this year you're going to see more on climate, and I'd love to come back at a later date, maybe just to talk about the climate aspects of this, because this is weather-focused, day-to-day phenomenon, but you're starting to see that phenomenon shift, right? Really warm days, really cold, what's going on out there? And it's a huge challenge. So it's a great question, but certainly one that should probably have its own part two session too, and possibly even include some of our research teams from the Yorktown T.J. Watson Research Lab that are working on that. So she's got a microphone, so
you know what? He went where I was going, to the issue of climate change and your ability to weigh in on the issue based upon data that shows here's what's happening, the number of incidences, and so looking forward to that conversation. And
weather and disasters and a number of, is the number one concern out there right now. So, the frequency of disasters, I don't know, it was like $300 billion was spent last year just in addressing the response to, and that doesn't include the small storms. Those are like the big storms. So it's a huge challenge. Yeah, okay, we got some questions in the back. I can't see you, but yeah.
So Steve, for larger organizations that have building management systems in place, do you foresee, or is your platform currently being used with system integrators like Siemens or Johnson Controls that would be able to use this on a predictive analytical basis to have sensors within your buildings to accurately determine how your building should be heated or cooled?
I love that question. No, absolutely. So we can work with almost any BMS, building management system, pull that data in. We do have some existing products like Tririga and Maximo and the integration of weather into those IBM products, but we can work with other sources for that INL project. So they're already buying the weather data for their black ice and roads. We're now talking to their facilities departments because the same thing, they've got tons of data, they've got tons of sensors, but the play of weather and those sensors and understanding, they've got 20 things that they need to fix every day. This damper is opening, this fan isn't, needs to get replaced. And looking at maintenance schedules, so you don't have to follow a 30-day schedule to necessarily fix something every 30 days to go, fix or clean or do this to that. So we're doing some predictive maintenance aspects using Watson and some of that. So happy to chat further later on that topic, but a great question.
One more on the, Yep. Steve, thanks very much for your presentation. Very informative, so I just wanted to compliment you on your presentation skills. More of a statement than a question. It seems sometimes the long-term forecasts are more accurate than the short-term forecasts. And I'm just wondering, you'll see 7 days out, you're going to get this much snow or this temperature, and it happens. And other times in the same day, they'll say, at 8 o'clock at night to midnight, it's going to snow 1 to 3 inches, and you get not even a dusting. So I'm just wondering, why are the long-range forecasts sometimes more accurate than short-term?
That's an interesting phenomenon. Hopefully it's not Weather Channel forecasts, but I have seen different folks get nervous as far as, the next 12 hours and the forecasts go all over the place, because essentially they're relying on models that they're running, and a lot of folks only run one model, and whatever that one model runs at and predicts is what you're going to use as your forecast. We're taking 178 different models, blending them and understanding using Watson which one is actually working. So like for hurricane tracks, understanding, is it going the way it should be? I've got another example, but you can look back at something like Irma, and it's projected, and there was a lot of evacuations on the eastern side of Florida, and so you had millions of people evacuate, but it took a track to the west and went up the other side and then crossed the state, basically hitting all those people and causing gas outages. So to your question, I think folks get nervous and are relying on a track or a model output, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's what's real. So having personal weather stations, mobile phone, pressure data, all these sources of data help you narrow in on what's the reality. And personal weather stations, that Weather Underground app question that we had earlier, folks report it's snowing here. And so you'll get real-time, folks will click a button and say it's cloudy, it's sunny, because they like to contribute. It's crowdsourcing at its best. So great question, thank you. And I know Amir had a question. But yeah.
Did you have a question first?
Amir?
Okay. Quick question. You said that you're working with aviation, and I saw a presentation back in November by somebody from United Airlines, and the climate is weather and climate having such a huge impact on aviation that it's kind of scary. Planes not taking off in extreme heat. In Arizona, for example, it's over 100 degrees or 130 degrees or whatever. And even when you're in the air, the change in the atmosphere when you're flying and the turbulence, that's a big deal. So what are you guys doing in that area?
Aviation, another favorite topic. I love all this. So I got my pilot's license. I don't know if you knew this.
Oh, no.
Yeah, a long time ago. I was going to be a pilot. Back in the 90s, they went through all the furloughs, and that's why I got my meteorology degree originally, because I wanted to be the best pilot there could be, and I figured understanding weather would be probably a good thing to have in the cockpit. So I was like, so what are we doing today? We're taking 50,000 flights. We're getting all the sensor data that these planes have. The planes essentially can fly themselves. I don't know if you know this, but there's no actual cable that runs. Like in my Cessna, there was a cable, and I would check the cable to make sure the rudder would turn. That's in these machines, like the big Boeings and Airbuses. It's millions of lines of code that have been written that control when the flaps come out and how much thrust the engines produce, and essentially after takeoff, I think by law the pilots actually have to take off the plane, but they could probably take themselves off. They can hit autopilot and just put in the route, so all the different vectors and where are they going, and do that, and the plane will fly itself. The challenge I see is the data piece, right? So we've collected all this data, United, American, all the big carriers out there. 9 out of 10 airlines use our weather company data, so that's a fun fact. I won't tell you who the one is. So, yeah. So, I won't speculate, but no. But giving that to the pilot and dispatch and all the operational piece. So there's a lot more that is not just in the cockpit real time, but getting ahead of it. So what is going to be most efficient for our flight today to avoid the turbulence, to get the greatest tailwind, or avoid a headwind, right? In the winter, we're coming out of it finally, but it takes forever to get to California right now because of the ridiculous jet stream. But you hit those winds, it slows you down, it takes you 6.5 hours. If you don't have the winds, you fly over Canada and avoid the winds, you can get there in 5.5 hours. So there's all types of things. It's really interesting to look at the operations. We have about 45 meteorologists that we put into operation centers, and they're trained. They have to be FAA certified in order to give forecasts to the airlines. And so they're the cream of the crop. They're like the best at what they do. And so hopefully it's making your flight experience a little bit better, or at least you know when turbulence is coming. And we're starting to do some design thinking type work with some of the airlines so that in your screens, you know, every individual will have access to some of this data. So you can see, you know, hey, oh, I've got 20 minutes before we hit the next big bump, or fast enough. It's going to be, we're trying to design it so it's not scary, because it can be, right? I mean, I've been on a lot of flights, especially recently. The winds, like 2 weeks ago, it was a short, you know, it was scary on takeoff. Yeah. So, great question. All right, we got a few more. I don't want to run past our time and respect everybody's Friday. I know you have places to go.
We're going to wrap up at 10. I don't know what time it is, but...
We got 7 minutes.
Okay.
So...
Could you comment on the verification of parameters and where you have seen the greatest improvement as far as extremes? So whether it be rainfall, temperature, wind gusts, etc. i.e., your model, has it improved, or are you still falling short?
I'll start with the simple answer is our models continually improve, in that we're continually learning from the data, and the forecast we had yesterday should be better today because of the machine learning algorithms and everything else that we're investing in. So we've invested a lot of money into running the weather data. When I first started a couple years ago, 3 years ago in this domain, we had 140 models. Then we went to 162. The current forecast is 178. So we blend all that, and again, it's deterministic. So we're blending these, we're using Watson. The future of forecasts, as I said, was probabilistic. But we also just released in January a new global resolution forecast model called GRAPH, G-R-A-F. So anybody really like nerdy into the weather stuff, check out GRAPH. It's taking a global model, and it's like high resolution. It's like going from TV in the 80s to TV today. Like you're going to be able to pick out individual thunderstorms to cover your question. So like precipitation. Precision agriculture is another area. I didn't go into a lot of detail, but we talked a little bit about the crops. Precision agriculture is vital because did my crop actually get rained on? If so, how much? And so then from an irrigation perspective, you can make sure that everything is getting watered the way it should be, or what's the optimal time for fertilizing and nutrients and getting out there ahead of the storm so those nutrients actually go into the ground. You're not just spraying stuff down and you don't really know what's going to happen to it. So there's a lot of optimization we can do just in agriculture as an example. I can't give you a specific temperature, wind, precipitation. I will say for one client, wind at a port was critical. So improving the forecast for wind was one area that we really dived really deep into using Deep Thunder, that model. So that helps us, you know, on that 3 to 6 hour window.
Maybe I'll reverse the question. Which parameter is giving you the hardest problem to correctly forecast the extreme, whether it be wind gust, precip in an outbreak or whatever? So, for example, take the weather during the last week. I'm not asking specifically this. How did you do on the max snowfall? How did you do on the max water content? How did you do on the max wind for whatever the minimum temperature? In other words, how are you doing on the extreme?
We're hitting at about, I'll share with you because it's publicly available on Forecast Watch. On average, about 70%, we're on about 70%. So that's better than 50-50. But it's not 100%, right? So not every forecast is spot on. And that is average across 1 to 3, 3 to 5, or 5 to 9 days. So it's...
Would you like to comment on the parameter that's giving you the most problem?
So one second. So the 1 to 3 day right? So 70% is averaged over time. Again, this third party does all the verification. The parameters, I think, that in general folks are having is right at that freezing temperature. So when it's right at 32 degrees, so I showed that slide, are you getting rain, freezing rain, sleet, or snow? I think that's the hardest to nail as a forecaster. I'm not, so if you, yeah.
If you get rid of that
Yep.
situation and we look at summertime conditions,
We're pretty good.
how do you do with
Our temperatures are
the rainfall?
rainfall.
All right, I think let's take that off. I think,
Yeah. So I'll
yeah,
cover
we
in
can
some
do
more-
that later.
Yeah. I'll get
Any
into more
last
detail.
burning
Yeah.
questions,
Good
Amir?
question.
And then we're gonna just
Yep.
you guys can chat with Steve. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can get really, so we
Yeah.
can spend hours like getting into all the technical piece, but yeah.
Last. Wow.
All right.
Very good.
Did you write it down?
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying, when I yielded to her, I said, do I still remember the question? I actually have two questions, Steve. Thank you for your presentation. Very well done. You said that your modeling projects, they started like about 8 weeks. Now you have learned, and it takes shorter. What is the investment that an organization that engages you is looking at to get this model done by you? And the other question is, what is the profile of types of clients that you've been engaged with? Are these all municipalities, governments? And really another question that I have, if you would like to comment, it's entirely up to you, is that most of these types of projects came from some sort of a defense contract. Did this also come about from a government organization requiring that, and then we turn it into a commercial use, or this was just something that IBM saw?
I'll work backwards. So there wasn't a government contract. There wasn't a government contract, sorry, per se that drove any of this. I think it's always been our clients and our clients' interest in getting ahead and doing the best that they can. Looking at, the overall, how do you engage, where do you start? I think it really depends on the challenge or problem that you have, how much data you have, how easy or difficult it is to cleanse that data, understand what you are looking for, and then we have simple solutions that can just connect a weather API so you can get feeds to the weather data and do some of that in-house depending on your skill and technical capabilities, to getting a couple data scientists to help. It's not just IBM that's out there. Anybody, not anybody, but you can find folks that have the technical skills to marry the two together. So I think it will range depending on the complexity of what you're trying to solve. If you're trying to do like a Walmart project and figure out SKU level placement of a product exactly in the store where it should be placed, that adds, many-fold to the scope. But if you're trying to just understand the ebbs and flows of, how does weather impact my business, and I think that certainly is doable, and you can see that ROI.
I want to know what is the size of the investment that a company is looking, and it makes sense. You mentioned one reference.
Yep.
Wherever it was, that cost to them of the workers not getting on time to work, whatever, it was $1 million a day. So obviously, if they spent $820,000, that would be. Is that in the $500,000, $400,000 range, or is it in the multi-million-dollar range for unit or other places?
It was less than your projected number of, 400,000. These things started as a proof of concept, and we charge basically as a consulting practice. It's put together as, first a workshop, right? We'll spend a day with a client, understanding what their challenge is, and then come back with a proposal. Because until we know what the problem is and the complexity of what's required to solve it, it could require traffic data, it could require another source of data we don't have access to. The cameras and all these things add to the overall complexity, but it's really sitting down and having that workshop to start the conversation.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, Steve, for an amazing presentation. I think we could be here for another hour if we let it happen, but we're not gonna. So.